Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Black Eel Podcast. We are going to be talking about the latest, I guess you would say, teaser trailer for the Thunderbolts. Then we're going to be moving on to talking about the latest episode of Harley Quinn, moving on to the incredible latest episode of Invincible, and then moving on to the two-episode incredible series premiere of Daredevil Born Again, and ending with a character spotlight from me, which means it's Marvel. And if we're ending with Daredevil, it must be related to Daredevil. So let's get right into this and start talking about the Thunderbolts. So this trailer was very off-brand, I guess the best
Very
way
different from what
we've
what
been
we're
getting
used to.
before.
Yeah. It was good. It gave a little bit more context of not a whole lot of context, but it's like we saw more of what they're going through. And
It's another one of those where we got a lot of new stuff, but we have no idea what it means, type of thing.
yeah, as a trailer should be.
Oh,
So
agreed.
I'm obviously not upset about that. But we also got the return of Bob.
Yeah, and Bob, we're seeing more of potentially how Bob switches from Bob to Sentry.
Yep.
Um, Again, we don't know that for a fact. Obviously, it's just an assumption we have. We also see a lot of the characters falling a lot. We saw Walker. So in the trailer before this, I believe it was Red Guardian that got blasted out of what used to be Avengers Tower.
Yep.
Now, blasted isn't the right word. He kind of got like telekinetically thrown
He got
out.
thrown out.
Yeah, it's unclear on that one, but anyway, it doesn't matter. And then all of a sudden, we see Walker falling down this massive shaft, and we have no idea why, how, and he's just
They're getting their butts kicked. So
yeah, which is kind of what we were expecting. We also didn't see any of the. I don't remember. Well, we saw them very briefly. Never mind. They were like quicks. Um, but Bucky Barnes gets spaghetti sauce on his white sweater, and
yep.
I've never related so hard to a character before.
You wish you were Bucky Barnes.
No, if anything, I to be fair, I would even dream about being this character, but I think more of anything else, I am Foggy. No, but I mean like legitimately, you know what he's like in the sense of like his mouth gets him into and out of trouble like you wouldn't believe, and if that's not me, there is no other character like me.
Yep, that's true.
As much as I would love to be any of the other heavy hitters, I am Foggy Nelson, and that is the end of that, unfortunately.
Uh, uh, Talking about this trailer, I apologize. It just clicked in my head.
This is the first time we had the asterisk without it saying um, the Avengers aren't here.
No, actually, no. That wasn't in the. That was a poster that we saw from China.
Oh, that's true. That's
I
true.
think it was China.
No, you're correct. No, well, it was a foreign country, but you're correct.
Foreign country. But no. I apologize because it literally just clicked in my head. I don't remember if it was this week. Wasn't there another trailer that we saw that we were supposed to talk about, and I don't remember talking about it last week? Um, I know I'm completely changing the subject on you, and this is like the worst time, but it just clicked in my head, and I was like, wait a minute. There was one more trailer that dropped. I sent it to you. I hyped it up so much. I don't remember if we talked about it last week. Um,
I'm not gonna lie to you. Clearly, I don't remember because
the reason why it clicked in my head was because when you were listening to watching the Thunderbolts again, I was listening to the music, and the music made me think of it because the trailer had such an outlandish song for the style of the trailer it was, or style of show it was. It feels like it doesn't make sense, but it actually does. Oh my god!
oh, I'm looking at the wrong person. Hold on. Keep
No,
talking.
Andor.
Oh, sorry. You're correct. Yes. So I did see that one.
I
I
don't remember. I apologize. We can finish talking about Thunderbolts, but I knew if I didn't say it at that moment, I was going to forget. And
no. I understand of your stupidity. Um,
hey, you forgot too.
I did, but it was so good.
It was amazing.
So I mean, again, it's another one of those trailers where we don't get the full context, but we know enough. I mean,
We're
this is
seeing characters coming back. We're going to see Saw Gerrera. He's in it.
yes,
A
but
lot of returning.
what I was also going to say too is we also get to see Cassidy. Is that it? No, Cassian. Sorry,
Cassian.
I knew as soon as I said it, it didn't sound right. Um, he's more of the role, at least in the trailer, than what we saw in Rogue One than we do in season one.
Yeah.
Which does make sense. We're getting closer. I get it. I'm just stating like I wonder if that's like a later episode or if it's
I think it's like I don't think it's going to be right at the beginning because I'm currently in the middle of rewatching Andor season 1, and like it's going into the original guy that recruited him.
yes.
Um he, who's telling him, he's like, listen, you can't be a criminal, you can't just be looking for yourself, you're a born leader, you have to get into this
Yeah.
mentality that you are a leader.
It's more than
And
just about yourself.
yeah, and he's obviously by the end of the first season he's like starting to do that, and I feel like it's going to be the start of season 2 is going to be kind of questionable,
Hmm.
and then like you said, by the middle towards end he's going to fully come into that role.
No, definitely. But I was also going to say too. He's giving me more terrorist vibes in the trailer than he did in season one for sure. Now I understand the point. Like season one, he is not for the cause at all. At
He's
least
for
not in
the
the beginning.
money. Yeah.
Um, and now he's much for it, and now he's willing to do what he needs to do to get the job done.
Yep.
I'm very
He
much excited.
realizes the impact.
We're also, I would imagine, we're also going to get to see plans for the Death Star.
Yep, because Krennic is returning, which
No,
I am
no,
super excited for.
I, I, you know what's funny? I literally was in that moment of being like, I thought he was dead, and I'm like, he is,
He is.
but they're all dead except
Yeah.
we're in the past, so he can't be
They're
dead.
all alive.
Yeah, because I literally, well, it was one of those things where in the trailer I'm going, he's dead, and I'm like, and I'm dead set like not putting two and two together, like he dies in the movie, and I'm like, oh, he died, and I'm like, and then I finally realized or registered, I forgot what it was, but all of a sudden I'm like watching it and I go, oh, he's he's not dead yet.
The chords connected. You figured out
Yeah,
what.
they sort of got there. So I mean, there's the curiosity of us actually seeing some people from the sequel series. No, no, that's not true. No, no, no. I'm sorry. No. But we're gonna be seeing characters, more characters from the movie though, from
Yep,
Rogue One.
we're gonna see. Like I said, we're gonna Saw Gerrera. We're gonna be seeing obviously Mon Mothra.
Yep.
I'm blanking. I'm literally watching it, and I'm blanking on the main guys.
Girlfriend,
The huh?
the first girlfriend.
No,
Who?
not the girlfriend. No, I'm talking about the guy that recruited Andor. Um,
Cassian. Yes.
his name is Cassian Andor. Thank you. I'm okay. Anyways,
He sort of. You're talking about the guy who played the Doctor in Thor.
oh yeah, I forgot that was him.
I have to do this every damn time I do this. It's
Hey,
disgusting.
listen,
Hey,
he's a much bigger role in this than he is in that. I'll say that.
it depends on the movie. Because the second one, he was naked and had much more power, which is sad to say, but yes.
That's not necessarily a good thing. Um,
I didn't say it was a good thing. I said he genuinely played a bigger role, and he had less clothing. But we also fun fact, we have the actor from Clayface is also going to be out as well.
mhm.
He plays the robot.
um, I want to say like I want to get what your thoughts were on the music for the trailer.
I don't think I
Um,
remember I don't think I remember the music because what
oh,
if I remember correctly, I think it was yeah, in fact talk because I think I can pull it back up.
it was just like super poppy kind of, and like very upbeat and not very Star Wars. So a lot of people were kind of like, what is this? The reason why I was asking is because actually, like, if you listen to the lyrics and
It's Daredevil.
listen to the name, it it's I think it's called like For the Revolution or something, and
Are you? Oh, I don't know if you sent it to me now.
I don't. I mean, I definitely sent it to you. I just don't remember if it was last week. I don't remember when it dropped. um,
No,
but
I'm seeing a lot of the other stuff you sent me.
But anyways, it was called like
Ah,
For
here
the
we go.
Revolution or something, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's
No, no,
not
no.
Star Wars,
It's
and
it's not bad, but I get your point. It's also not it's not your stereotypical like Star Wars accompaniment. But this
yeah,
is also a very un Star Wars like show, which is weird to say because
but
it's
the point is like the song and the message it's sending is very fitting for what Andor is.
absolutely.
So
I would
that's
agree.
why
I also like him with the slick hair back. I mean, we're gonna see some major changes in the sense of how they look because we're gonna be seeing them years apart, quite literally.
oh yeah,
Um, so I'm very curious on that front. But overall, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I was looking forward to it after season one of Andor, so it's like
that's for sure.
I nothing's changed except for the fact that I'm happy that it's happening.
It's around the corner now.
Yeah, it's next. Is it April?
Yeah, April 22nd, I think, something like that.
That's what I thought. Anyway, um, so let us move on to Harley Quinn because this was an episode I was not prepared for.
We are not prepared for any episodes. Like,
No, but this one I could honestly say this was not what I was expecting.
we've been saying this every week for Harley Quinn. Like nothing we expect comes to fruition, and they're throwing curveballs at us, and it's working great.
Oh no,
Um,
phenomenal. So
but
the idea
it's
is, Lena is an incredible strategist.
yep.
She's an incredible strategist, and the big thing for me too was, and that now, I just want to say this: I never thought she was stupid. I want to make that
Mhm.
clear. I just was impressed with her level of intellect, and her ability to outsmart her opponents rather easily. And I think it's not so much the Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy of it, because no offense, they're kind of easy to dupe. No offense.
Harley more so, but yeah.
Yeah, but then because she's looped in with,
Yep.
it's a dupe, right?
I get it.
But the fact that she got Brainiac, and again, you could argue like this is also the weakest Brainiac we've ever seen, or at least the most emotional Brainiac.
It's definitely the most emotional, and I kind of agree with the weakest because I mean,
Well, that's what I mean. Like when I mean weakest, I hesitated for a second because I think physicality wise, I think he's probably the same, and I think power wise, I think he's the same. The difference here is his emotional stability, which is
he
very
got beaten.
much
He got
zero.
beaten because he's big sad. So
He's just eating his credits and or eating his chips, literally, and and it's just you know
it was so funny. Just him like I'm gonna stick it to you and given his people's curse, which is the thumbs up, and just like in most universes, this is the biggest insult you could ever do, and it's like,
and then he holds up the
wow,
peace. Then he then doesn't he do the peace sign that's also like bad too?
yep, he does the peace
And
sign,
then she
which
does both thumbs, and then he's like, "Oh no, that's just
you
just
would,
rude.
how dare you?
How
It's
dare you
like,
disgrace this conversation with that?" Um, honestly, Brainiac as a character, and we've said this a million times, is so friggin' perfect, and it's like
it's
he. I can honestly say, and I've said it every episode, and I'll continue to say it until the season is over. Brainiac is a character that I actually love,
yep.
and that is something I've never said in any show I've seen him in ever. I've always hated him, but I've hated him because of how good they've portrayed him. You
He's
know
a
what I mean?
bad guy.
Yeah, no, like that's the point. This one, I'm like, I just love him. He's just
No, he's great. Like I said, the Harley Quinn, this universe just does a great job of making
they,
these characters just like more than their typical self, and it's so good.
but at the same time, they also kept his origin story to be his original origin story,
Yep.
which is even funnier because it works for the show.
Hmm.
Because it doesn't work anymore in the comics because we can't imagine him being like this.
Yeah,
No,
this particular way, no.
no, and the fact that he is just incredible. So Harley Quinn. So this was a whole thing in and itself. Like there was a whole plethora of emotions in this. Poison Ivy basically tells Harley Quinn to stay in the house, and she's going to deal with Lena herself. We see a very broken Bruce Wayne again.
Oh yeah.
And then we have to go deal with Harley Quinn and her parents, who her dad told her mom died, and then turned out to be a lie, and then tried to sell her organs on the black market, and then that didn't work out. And then during the fight to save herself and her father gets shot and killed in a warehouse by Lena's men. Um,
Which I just want to say, like when the goons showed up and the first one just talks, I audibly just burst out like a little laugh just because I was not expecting such a high pitched like we're here to get you. It was like I was not expecting that.
yeah, and the fact that they were also Lena's men too, which is, I mean, again, it fits perfectly to her and everything else. But then she turns around and sees her dad dead, and she's just like, "Oh no!" And then how quickly her mother just was fine.
Just so ready to get it with Lex Luthor.
Mm, she loves that man. Also, we found out where Lex Luthor is, which we kind of already knew anyway. But I'll say it this way: I don't think we knew he was in a prison.
I just want to know how we got from season
Apocalypse.
4, he was getting taken by Apocalypse,
But
to
then he
Kite Man.
lands, yeah, and then
He,
he's running, what's it called? Um, he was running the Legion of Doom,
yeah, and
and
then now he's in prison. So it's like, how do you get from point A to point B so
I
frequently?
actually
That's
feel like we're actually going to find out next episode, all joking aside, because we have him.
yeah, true.
So I feel like at the very least, it's going to be either joked about or talked about.
Yeah,
I thought you were in an apocalyptic prison, and you know what I mean, and they'd be like, no, 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 that was somebody else.
yeah. I'm
Um,
curious. I'm curious who's voicing him.
That's the
Um,
other thing too. We have not heard his voice yet.
yep.
And also, not so surprising, Lena has a thing for her brother where she's very jealous of him, and
All of
she,
this is because she wants the approval of her brother.
yeah, which I don't hate, and I thought I was going to.
No, it fits.
I no, it does, but I mean, like, it's one of those things where it's like, normally it's something that's ridiculous.
Hmm.
You're like, no, this is the dumbest reason ever. But then you got to realize it's Harley Quinn, and it fits so perfectly.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
and then the interactions between her and Brainiac were incredible. She kicks Frankette out,
yeah.
which was its own sad. Um,
I don't need you anymore. You served your purpose. Like, okay, rude.
but also not incorrect.
And I
But
love the whole thing. Like, she took over Brainiac's ship. First of all, obviously, spoilers. She accomplished in capturing Metropolis. We find out.
yeah, so at the end of the
Uh,
episode, when they have Lex Luthor in the no, he's not in the trunk, is he?
in the car, backseat,
No,
knocked out in the backseat,
that's right.
getting assaulted by Harley's mother.
No, 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 she's protecting him. She's holding him tight in case there's an accident.
Yeah,
When they get to the bridge, they see this massive. Well, actually, it's just water at that point.
yeah,
Um,
a crater.
well, but it's not even like a crater because it's filled up with water, so it's basically like part of the ocean now. I know, but you get my point I'm making.
It's a
And
crater filled with water. I
then the
mean,
mother's hilarious, being like, "Wow, Metropolis is worse than I thought it would be."
yeah.
Um,
But I love Lena because the that when she finally got full control of Brainiac's ship, the first thing she does is does everything that Lex hates and is like, oh, I'm going to turn this into Lena Tower. I'm going to turn this into
she's like,
a store for staples or like
like Lex said he hated this to be a jazz or like something like that, and she goes, "Well, now it is." And then, and to be honest with you, I was not expecting her to actually shrink the city yet.
no, I was not. I wasn't expecting her to actually do it in general. I thought, you know,
So the fact that it happened, I was like, okay, we're in a very different place than I thought.
yep.
So I don't know where the next episode's going to be. I'm assuming we're going to get more information from Lex,
Hmm.
in the sense of like his relationship to his sister and everything else. But I'm very curious to see whether or not Lena's going to continue to play with Metropolis as it has shrunk.
I mean, I'm assuming she's going to just. I mean, I don't really. Oh, you mean like play with it as in like change it?
Oh
Okay,
no,
yeah.
I
I
mean
mean,
like
probably,
mess with it while it's tiny, and being like,
probably.
this is not mine. Although realistically,
She's gonna have a lot of free time now, so
that is also true. So anyway, maybe she'll turn into a bag of bones in a couple of centuries, and Brainiac will start thinking that she's still alive. Um, But yeah, overall, oh, too soon or too real? Both. I get it. So anything else you want to say? Because I think that was, I mean, it was a good episode. Do not get me wrong. It's just we really don't know what's going to happen next. And to be
Hmm.
honest with you, I think there's only been one episode where we felt confident of what was going to happen and we were wrong. So we stopped being confident.
Oh
So
yeah, no,
I stopped
this,
guessing.
this
I
this
stopped
season
guessing.
is just like throwing everything out the book. It's like, okay, we're going in this direction. Nah, it's like, but the funny
No,
thing is, they're still going in the direction we think they are, and then it's just like
well, no,
making their.
it's just you're right. They're technically going down. We're getting to the same exit.
I mean, at this point, I don't know what we're doing, like, because
No, but
obviously
what I'm
they're
saying
going to
is
go
like what
stop
we
Lena,
thought was
but
going.
it's
So
like,
I'll say it this way: what we thought was sort of happening is happening, but not in the way we thought it was going to happen.
yeah, no, it's like, okay, it's like here's the end goal. Instead of going straight, they're going woo.
Metropolis is getting fixed up, and it's going to get bottled. Like that happened. However, I thought it was going to be by Brainiac, and it was done by Lena, and
Yep.
it was done in a very different way than I was expecting. But overall, very good. And let's talk about the most important piece now, and moving on to Invincible. We had the Invincible War.
That was so good. Like
I
I
was
la-
very nervous because of it being one episode, and
yeah.
it was an episode, let
what
me tell you.
what the incredible thing is last week when you were like, oh, we're getting the Invincible War soon, I'm like, I hope it's more than just like an episode or two. Hope they drag it out, which technically we still can. But
Well,
like
so yes,
what we got was absolute perfection. I didn't expect it to be as they did it so well.
they did an entire war in one episode, and I'm not complaining about it.
Yeah, it
Not even a
was
little.
the
There was.
impact that it had, the quick, like it actually
Can we
flowed.
can we just talk about how we get to see all 15 marks seeing their Earth burning
Yeah.
before we see them all together? And
Hmm.
then we have the I don't even remember which mark it is, but one of the marks going to Debbie's home, being like, "Mom, Mom, I'm hurt, I'm hurt," and he's like, "Damn, she's not here."
I wanted to kill her again. Like,
And I'm
oh
just
my
like,
god.
"Oh, it was." And the best part is, Debbie knew too, because she now, granted, she didn't know, but
Yeah.
she knew enough to be like, "No, no, at least one of them is coming here. Like, we need to get out."
Yep. And
Just
the
the amount of
I
death, the amount of death, the amount of people who died.
yeah, it was a lot of death, a lot of death, a lot of destruction. Like it made the Omni-Man versus Invincible fight like
Nothing.
minuscule.
Yes, I know it sounds so stupid to say because that was like the big thing, and it's like, oh. And can we also talk about though that Powerplex took out more Invincible variants than the Guardians of the Galaxy? Oh no, sorry, Guardians of the World. No,
uh,
Guardians of
Guardians of
Earth.
the World. Yeah. Guardians of the World, I believe.
Guardians of the World.
But yeah, no, and the funny thing is like it was actually really funny because going off of that, because he couldn't beat our Invincible, but Cecil and his assistant, robot assistant, I forget his
Which
name,
we didn't even get
Donald.
to see all the fights, and yet
No,
you saw what happened. And you were
you
like,
see their
"Oh!"
carnage.
We were like, but the thing is, it's like we get to the Pentagon. Cecil's bleeding. We got his sidekick, who's half a robot at that point, and
And
then
then
you
you
see
see
a
all
bunch
the
of
the
reanimates, and then you have a bunch of reanimates just beating an Invincible to a bloody pulp
yep, yeah.
until he until he was definitely dead.
But
Um,
they pointed out that their Invincible is stronger than at least stronger than some of the other Invincibles that invaded.
yeah.
Which
So, and this doesn't ruin anything either. I mean, obviously they were all different strengths because their
yep.
universes are very different.
Hmm.
Their training was obviously different as well. And ironically enough, the Viltrumite versions of
Was just
Mark
about to say that
were one of the
were
weaker ones.
were the ones that got beaten. I was surprised by that. I thought they were the ones
I
that were going to
well,
be a
so
bigger.
I know that only because when like in those universes he joins the Viltrumites, so then he's not training as much. Like as I know this is gonna sound weird to say, but Viltrumites don't train. You're either strong enough or you're not. And so like their idea is it's like you're just gonna die. Like if you're not strong enough, you deserve death.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but I mean, just in general, the idea that thinking that a Viltrumite, like a full blood, or not full blood, but fully trained Viltrumite Mark is weaker than a, just one that's going around crying about his mother being dead is kind of shocking. you know, Especially because this one is one that puts his emotions to the side and
And
has no remorse.
there were three Viltrumite marks. Two of
Yes,
which, one with a
one of them.
mustache, one
Yeah,
without, and then one that was tortured.
yeah, a prison. Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
do
And let's just
I
say, FYI, the one with the worst backstory, and when I say worst, I mean like bloodiest, was Mohawk Invincible.
what was his?
So we didn't see it in the show fully, but he actually kills everyone, takes over Earth, becomes the leader of the Viltrumites in
Oh,
his universe, and makes everyone bow to his greatness.
great.
Which is also kind of funny to me because he runs the Viltrumite army, but doesn't look like a Viltrumite. Also, can we talk about Omni Man Invincible?
Which one was which
It
one?
was the
Which
one that
one?
literally it was Mark that was dressed up like Omni Man with an Invincible mask. He had the cape and everything.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yep.
So there was a lot of things too that were happening that a lot of people were mad about Eve getting one-shotted.
Yeah, which I think was kind of interesting. I mean,
Well, it makes well
she's going up against a Viltrumite. I mean,
two technically. I mean, I know she got so she got well. So I understand your point. Like only one did the damage, but like she was technically going up
uh,
against two.
I'm yeah. She's going up against Viltrumites versus like people are comparing like her losing to the two Viltrumite marks against her beating as a teenager just petty criminals. Like, what do you?
Yeah, and
Or
like
I
they're
guess
all.
clones of her. They were clones of her, right?
Well,
In
no, they were siblings. They were siblings. They were actual siblings. They weren't clones. They
Oh,
were
okay.
attempting to make. They were trying to replicate what they did with her, but every other version of her was more and more unstable.
But it was her.
Well, no, it wasn't her. It was her brothers, because they were using their mother's um, DNA and in the. So it was still her embryos. So it wasn't a direct clone of her.
Oh, okay. All
So
right. I didn't
they
remember
were
that.
related. They were related,
Yep.
but they weren't clones. And
Hmm.
that was what the biggest issue was they weren't clones, and that's what was making a big issue. But anyway, the point
But
I'm
yeah, the
making,
point, like, I just think it's crazy that people are trying to compare those two fights. It's like,
well, it's also like we've also seen Eve get taken out by a mark before in another universe where
yep.
he snaps her neck and then makes her because if he doesn't, she'll just bring herself back. Spoilers. Um, but she's also human. Like she's basically, and this is how I always hate describing her like this, but she's Jean Grey. She is literally the definition of a glass cannon.
Yeah.
She could do a lot, but the moment you touch her, all bets off. Okay, because she by herself, like without her defenses that she creates around her, she herself cannot take any damage
Hmm.
like any of her other friends. Um, and so like she also gets her leg broken, and then she gets slammed like very hard
From a
onto the ground,
Viltrumite.
and she even tried to cushion it. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it still wasn't enough to stop it from happening.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just not a reasonable comparison, and the fact that
No, I agree. I
so
agree.
like she got beat, but she held her own to the best of her ability.
And she did better than the Immortal, and
Well, Immortal died, but he came back. I mean,
yeah, well, that's his gimmick. But I mean, like realistically, he couldn't even handle one with a group of people with him, and
oh,
she
that's
was
what you mean.
handling and
Yeah.
she was
Okay.
handling one technically by herself because
Yeah.
Mark was dealing with the other one.
For the most part, for the part of the fight that we saw, Immortal was by himself.
No,
So,
that's fair, but because we see the bodies of everyone else,
yeah.
that's where I'm getting at. And
Yep.
also, can we talk about how his head gets thrown to one of duplicates of clones?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
This was like we also have
Shape
shape
Master.
sh- shapesmith.
Shapesmith. Yep, there we go. Yep.
I knew I was gonna get there eventually.
Just split in half, and we, it
And I
made it seem
honestly
like
thought he
he's
was dead.
dead.
I thought he was dead, and he's like, all my innards are kind of not together, so I'm gonna have to try to figure it out. But I love the Invincible that did it, and it was like, oh my god, he said something weird when I split him in half, when I was really literally tearing him in half. What was it? I don't want to be undead. I don't want to be unalive. He goes, I'm trying to remember now. Could you guys remember as he's just beating him up? I'm like, oh my
just
god.
just come so nonchalant.
I want to see what happens in the Dark Universe too.
I hope they show that. Like that is
They better. But anyway, so we see all this. We see Powerplex come in as well to help out. We see the Brits version of Cecil's of like the um I guess Cecil's agency. And we get to see some incredible powered beings who were getting their butts handed to them.
I looked I don't know if you did, but I looked up a couple of their some of the
names.
people.
So one is literally the Brit.
Yep, one is the Brit,
That
one
was the
is
that was the I thought it was Cecil from another universe. It's obviously like it's the
not.
Cecil of the British, but
Yep.
not Cecil.
So Brit Tech Jacket.
Yes. So Tech Jacket, wasn't he the one that fought the guy in space, or am I incorrect?
I thought so. They didn't put any pictures to them. I just saw a
That's
list
who
of the
I thought.
names.
So I thought he was the one that was flying around in space, blasting the Viltrumite Mark. Who can we also talk about? Randomly has his fingers broken.
The Viltrumite one?
Yeah. So when he's
I
getting
actually didn't pay attention to that.
when we finally see him dead, floating,
Yeah.
his fingers are literally in different directions. And
Oh,
like,
I mean,
so, like,
his body could have spasmed when he died.
I guess, but like to spaz like that, I don't know. Even as a Viltrumite, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm just saying it that way. That being said, I just thought it was kind of funny because I'm like, we've only saw them fighting with like laser blasts, and
Yep.
so the fact that we see him with broken hands, I'm like,
I'll be honest. I was more in shock that he got killed than paying attention like to his body parts. So that's kind of like what I was at. But if I had noticed that, I probably would have been confused as well.
but no, it was one of those things where it doesn't ruin anything at all. We also have Powerplex actually burn one of the
Yep, electrocuted him to get. But the rest of the heroes was the astounding Wolfman,
okay.
the best tiger,
Yep.
El Chupacabra, Bolt, Kid Thor,
Oh yes.
Knockout, Cast Iron, Minotaur, Throwbolt, Shrapnel, Two Punch Man,
Oh yeah, because he's got to do it in two.
Business Baby, Hunk, and Burly.
Which Business Baby got splatted on. I felt so bad for. Also, I was trying to figure out what his powers were. And I know that sounds so stupid to say, but I was like, he's just swinging around. And
just the big ball.
And then he just gets he's literally a butterball. And then he gets slammed down, and you just see splat. And I just go, well, I guess we're not gonna
he tried.
Literally in my mind, I'm like, well, I guess we're not going to know more about him. That's phenomenal.
But I thought it was cool to see so many villains, so many different heroes coming together to help fight the Invincibles. So I'm curious if maybe more of them will show up later.
There's been one we've been very much avoiding talking about, and it was our friend Rex. They did Rex dirty, but they also did him so well. That scene reminded me of episode 5 of X-Men '97 with Gambit.
Yeah, it did. Just the entire thing of him saying goodbye and oh my god, I just need to know. Did you know that he was going to die? Which is why you said that he wasn't going to quit being a superhero with.
So I did know, but I will also tell you this, that this doesn't ruin anything. They also changed it where Shrinking Ray was supposed to die in the Serpent fight.
Oh, okay.
So in the comics, that's what happened.
She actually died.
Yeah. So I didn't know for a fact because the show was doing slightly. They never had a relationship because she died.
Yeah.
Before anything happened. So like I wasn't sure that it was still going to happen because of that. But did I know that it was a potential? Yes. Did I know it was going to be this way? Absolutely not.
Okay. They sent my biggest thing was after he exploded his spine, that
No, he
Mark
exploded
was
his
still
arm.
going to be standing there. And I was going to be like, no, it was for nothing. I was going to
No,
be
no, no. So
prepared to be so mad.
I knew it was gonna be because the big difference here was, um, or the thought process was the reason why the floor didn't work was because it had to travel a significant difference and he could fly over it.
Yeah.
Where he was literally holding the bomb in his hand.
No, no, no. I understood that why the floor didn't work and whatever. I was just, because Mark
Well,
is
no,
a
the
little
other
bit
thing
more
too is like
durable.
the reason why I'm saying that. Well, yes, um, but I think that the idea is, I think the other thing too was it's because most of his skeleton was not skeleton as well, because I
Um,
think it matters the material that he uses. That can also it's the size, the mass, and I believe it's the material that's used. That and also just watching the beginning of that where it's bulletproof robot. And then all of a sudden, that version of Mark is like, you know, I'm trying to figure out which, like, if you're in any of these. And he goes, I'm assuming you are because I hear the fear in your voice, and I just want to know which one it is. And Monster Girl's on the ground. She's knocked out, right? And I'm just like, oh, this is not good.
nope.
Not nothing made me. I literally thought everyone was gonna die. I mean, it got to the point where literally, Cecil's friend was literally half a robot at the very end of the episode.
Yep.
And this was
Donald,
three
by the way.
days. Donald, 3 days long, right?
Yes. Yes, it was 3 days. Yep.
And this was a whole cluster of stuff like you wouldn't believe. I don't even think I could give it justice. But at the end, only 7 remained, or 8, 7 or 8.
I don't think it was 8. I
It was
think I
half. It was
yeah.
half. So it had to
Yeah.
have been because there were 15. It has to be 7. I'm
Well,
guessing.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, it could be 7 or 8, but is the point I'm making. But
Yeah. I think it was 7.
we also get Landstrom's. Do we get his backstory in this episode?
We
Yes, we
don't
do.
we know how he survived
Oh, that's what I mean.
because of the
That's his backstory. Sorry.
technicians. Yep.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Which I'm glad that they answered. I'm just a little shocked that, like, I guess I mean, I was a little caught off guard. I was like, no one thought to check on the body to make, like, no one was like, oh, let's go find the body to make sure that he's actually dead.
But
So
then again, you got to think about it this way too. They had the future people come back to the past to go get him, and then they never checked the body because they would no longer exist at that point. Is the thought process?
fair.
Because they also would have left right away because they wouldn't want to stay any longer because they could damage the
That'll damage the
continuity.
timeline. Yeah.
And why would you go back there to a pocket dimension when realistically, I also don't think anybody has that technology at this time.
Yeah. I don't remember. I know obviously we saw Eve and I think we saw Robot. Did we see a future Rex? Um
I well, this is where it gets awkward because I took it as
obviously
I took no
obviously with
no no I took it as robot because he still looked kind of youngish, like he looked younger than Eve.
well, I said I know we saw Eve and I think we saw Robot. I just didn't remember if we saw Rex.
Well,
But now that you're
no,
saying that, Robot does look like Rex now that you're saying that. So,
well, it is Rex.
yes.
I know it's a
Yes.
stupid thing to say, but
Yes.
you understand the point I'm making. It is the same. That's why I said what I said. Um, yeah, there was at least a bunch of people, but yeah. Rex blew himself up, and then we at the end where we see pretty much all the dead bodies, um, we see the stain, I guess you would say, of the explosion, where our friend Rex was.
I I liked I want to talk about how Eve's parents are just like the worst. Because it's
they
like,
they always are the worst, and it's just I think what kills me the most was when they walk in guns ablazing and he's like, we need privacy now, and I'm just like, maybe he was the one that saved your daughter,
hmm
and
and obviously they don't
they
know
don't
that
know.
he's
No, they
invincible.
don't know who he is, and I think they'd be and I think Mark put two and two together not to
Yeah.
say anything
Yep.
because, and again, I don't think it actually had to do with them. um like them specifically. Like it didn't have to do with them. It had to do with the fact of how he was already feeling about the whole situation to begin with, and
Yep.
he didn't. Invincible doesn't have a good name right now. I
Yeah.
mean, there was a time where Invincible got attacked by heroes because they thought he was a variant, which I mean, in a weird way, he is, but like wasn't.
I mean,
No, I know, but you don't understand what I'm saying. But he wasn't the bad one.
I thought that was so funny that they were attacking him, and then they cut away, and they come next time we come back to it, the actual variant is dead, and they're all like helping him up. I'm like, okay, what happened? Where how did
But it
this?
was enough to know exactly what was going on because that too, and then Oliver was actually good. Um,
Yep. Oliver took out a mark, which is pretty incredible. I love that he was actually trying to do good and
yes.
help the.
And can we also talk about him not killing Powerplex too?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I was expecting with that one punch to do a lot of damage, and then I kind of for, forgot that Powerplex how his powers work. So I
Yeah,
was like,
he's
oh
just
god, how?
absorbing that energy,
Yeah,
and that's when Mark's like, "Don't do it," and he's like, "Okay, I won't." Um, but no, the Landstrom thing got me too, where he was like, "You got to kill him. It's the only way to do it," and then he didn't. And then Cecil's conversation with Mark after was, "Yeah, you probably should have,"
yeah.
but he's like, "Hey, we're you're still a
Well,
good
no, he was
person."
talking. He was because Mark was talking about like if I had actually killed him, none of this would have happened. And Cecil agreed with him because not the fact that he escaped, but the first time he actually should have killed him because it was such a
Oh,
it was such huh.
I took it as they were talking about the second time with the portal.
No, he was talking about the first time because he was feeling down on himself because
No,
he's
no,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm here kicking myself because I thought I killed him and it turns out I didn't. It turns out I should have killed him. And Cecil was like, yeah, you should have, but
But
you
Cecil's
did what you
also
thought
like,
was right.
but Cecil's also like, yeah, you're like Cecil is a character at least this season more than any other, obviously, where I'm like he is the voice of reason, and I'm realizing like when,
He is such a great character in this season. It is insane.
but he's been the same character, which is even funnier. We just didn't trust him, and
But
now we
no, it was
do.
the like he became so much more human in this episode in this season, and like,
Well, it's one of those things where we're like, oh, he's a government official. We hate
yep,
him. He's already turning his back on his like we automatically dug him as the worst human being on the planet. And then they're like this season they're like, hey, by the way, everything you hate about him is the reason why you love him. And they're
and
just like you're just like yeah.
it's like I don't know what to feel anymore because it's like,
This was like I'll say this. This was the equivalent in this universe of how we felt about Brainiac.
yeah. I mean,
Like this
this
was a character we should
I
have
was
hated and we
what
didn't. And we can't. We can't hate now.
this season has gotten so many things about just characters that we don't know what to feel. And it's like not even like Invincible. We got Harley Quinn. We had I mean, this year with just characters that we're not supposed to like, we love. And it's like
Well, and we're going to be talking about in Daredevil too, like certain things that have happened as well that we're going to be like, oh, what's going on here, type of thing. But no, So we haven't even talked about the end of the episode, which is mind
oh
blowing
my
in of
god.
itself. So, by the way, do you know anything about that Viltrumite?
I know that I know who plays him. That's about it.
So his name is Conquest. That's his literal name.
and
Um,
his name.
oh, okay, so you did know that. That doesn't change anything. He is the oldest Viltrumite that's left alive in all of Viltrumite to nice, whatever you want to
So
call
he's
it.
the oldest Viltrumite.
Yeah. Um, he's obviously not the first one or anything like that, but I'm
Yep.
just saying he's the
He's the
oldest
old
that's left,
he's the longest living one right now.
which makes him one of obviously the strongest Viltrumites.
Yep.
I'm saying it that way because he's also old.
If he's able to live, that means he's survived for a
No,
reason.
he's very strong, which doesn't change anything like in the sense of that you're surprised about. But what I'm getting at too is nobody. I don't think anybody's gotten to his age in in their Viltrumite like like thing. So I actually think that he might actually be getting weaker than what he was before. He might be past his peak, is what I'm getting at.
I mean,
Um,
he said it when he showed up. He's like, I might not be as strong as the other ones, but I'm the one they send to test you to make like the final test to see if you're
and and so
doing what you're supposed
he's
to do.
also got his left hand amputated and replaced with a metal arm, metal hand.
I
It's the
thought it
left
was the
one.
right. I thought it was the
It
right,
might be the
but
right. It might be the right. But it's
semantics.
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 And he's also got this eye thing going on, right? Like all good Viltrumites that have fought wars have missing an eye.
Battle scars.
Yeah, which is so funny to me because if you're that strong, you shouldn't. But whatever. Um, no, but meaning like in my mind, in the Viltrumite code, it's weird that he's allowed to be disfigured and still be allowed to be around. Is more of what I'm getting at.
I mean, also the Viltrumite code is if you're alive, then you're better than the other opponent. So the other opponent took out his eye, he took his life.
Well, that's the other
So
thing too. It's
I
like,
mean,
yeah, yeah. Who you gonna go with? You gonna go with the guy who's
yeah.
hollow, or you gonna go with the guy who's just missing an eye and a hand? But anyway, so the episode ends mid 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 impact. Like they didn't even get a chance to touch each other yet. But I just love how Mark's like, you know what, this is not the day, man. And he's
that
like, we're doing
that
it.
that sent me chills. That because he just shows up, says he says we're gonna test you. This is gonna be the final test to see if you're ready. And he just looks at him and says, "I'm just looking for something to hit." And Conquest looks down at him and smiles and just says, "Good." Oh my god. The amount of hype that gives me for next week. I cannot wait for this
So have
week's
you seen the
episode to show up.
thumbnail? So have you seen the thumbnail for the final episode now?
I did. I don't remember what it is.
Okay, so it's literally just Mark and Oliver on the ground bleeding.
Is it? Okay.
So again, that doesn't really ruin anything because I'm assuming that it's going to be a bloody fight regardless. So
Yeah, kind of has to be.
I mean, it's a Viltrumite. Let's be honest here, right?
Yep. We've already
Um,
seen what happens when two Viltrumites show up. So, I mean,
yeah. So the other idea too is just so we're definitely next episode. It's conquest fight. And there is a lot of speculation in the community of how this season's going to end, and many people are thinking that it's going to end in a way where I'm going to hate it, where um, it's going to be left on a cliffhanger.
oh, I know how much you love your cliffhangers.
So they're saying one of two things. They're either going to finish the conquest storyline
The
of
fight.
like
Yep.
of like this moment, um, or they're gonna divide it in half, or I shouldn't say in half, but like divide it in a way where it works, in the sense of like they showed you enough, and then they're like, you don't know what's gonna happen until next season.
And then they're gonna cut to something else or something.
Alan the Alien or whatever.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah. So I'm very curious on that front. I also have the feeling if they're going to do that, they're actually going to do Alan the Alien and Nolan first, and then end with the conquest fight. The reason why I say that is because they're not going to want to. If they're gonna end on a cliffhanger, I don't think they're gonna.
That would be kind of shooting themselves in the foot if they end on a
On a
cliffhanger and
cliffhanger,
then
and
jump
then like,
over to
oh, by the
Alan.
way, we're gonna spend 20 minutes with
Yeah,
Alan the Alien.
that would be bad. That would.
That's more of what I'm getting at. So I'm like, I'm stating that.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Unless it's like a post credit scene where it like
No, it can't be.
ends.
I will say
Yeah.
it's a post-edit credit scene where they're like, conquest is on Earth, and they both go, oh shoot, and they fly.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. What I'm saying is I'm not going to be okay if they do like they've done with some of the episodes where the episode you feel is done in 10 minutes and then there's a 45-minute episode of Alan the Alien. Which,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I don't hate, but I think in this context,
In this context,
I would hate
it has to be, they have to focus on conquest. They have to focus on that.
like they did with the Invincible War. Nothing else can take precedent.
Yeah. No. This
Um,
is a big moment, and this is going to be Mark's real first test of whether he can stand on his own against a Viltrumite. So,
Also, the other thing too was Cecil offered him the leadership of the Guardians, and he
yep.
said no way in hell. Um,
But he said no, but he also said I'm
if you
willing to
need me,
talk. Yeah.
but if you need me, I'll be here.
And Cecil like literally reached out an olive branch because he's like, all this stuff that you've gone to, you need if you need a friend to talk to, I'm here. And obviously Mark was like, hell no, but then
But at the same
he was
time, he
like,
also said
thank you.
thank you, which was
Yeah.
also a big thing too.
Which is a massive step forward for
I
that.
just can't get over this because Cecil's just so good.
It's incredible. But what did you? So
So
obviously
there's some
you
things.
have a little bit
I
more.
have more knowledge, but what I've also learned too is some of my knowledge is from the multiverse. So like, this doesn't ruin anything, but the the monster girl thing I was telling you about,
Yep.
that was actually in Mohawk's universe. So it wasn't
Oh.
in the regular universe.
Oh, okay.
So like some of the stuff that I'm learning about is
Hmm.
apparently not even from the main universe. So I'm
That's
like,
the
I
that's
don't
the thing
know
that
what's.
sucks about multiverses
Well,
is
no,
like
because now I'm like questioning everything because I'm like,
now
well,
you don't know what's actually going
I go,
on.
I thought this was a thing and this is a thing and it's not a thing. Why is it not a
Yeah.
thing? And it's like, oh, because it's a thing here, not there. And I'm like, "Ugh." So
um,
Landstrom. Before we forget, Landstrom is now captive
that's what I was about to ask you.
about
Is
to
like
be armed.
what do you think of that, and how do you have any idea of how it's going to play out forward?
My impression is Landstrom's not gone, so he will be
Yeah.
back. Um, there are many different things that happen. Um, that I don't know which one's the real one. I'll say it that way, to be honest.
Okay.
There have been so no matter what, he comes back and plays a role again. That shouldn't ruin. That shouldn't
Yep.
be a surprise. Um, he does. Put it this way: the marks are trapped in the universe that Landstrom was supposedly killed in,
Yep. Yep.
and this shouldn't ruin anything. In the comics, they go back to it, which again shouldn't be all that shocking.
Mm.
But time does pass, and let's just say you'll see some things that even I'm uncomfortable with.
Oh boy. um.
But no, so he comes back, and he's. I don't know if he's a slave necessarily, or if he's just like. So it's like it's unclear when he comes back if he's in full control of himself.
Okay. I
It doesn't
like
ruin anything because it's like it's still unclear, but it's like it's not like they went into detail being like, well, he's not sitting there saying I am being controlled by these people who want me to do this.
I like that. So there were so many comments that I was seeing this week, which is something that I was saying last week as well. Is Langstrom is or Angstrom, not Langstrom. Angstrom is so far
Is
gone.
it Angstrom, not Langstrom?
It's Angstrom Levi, I believe.
My apologies.
Yep. I mean, I was doing the same thing. So he's so far gone that he's willing to recruit the most evil marks in the universe in the multiverse in order to take out the one actually good one. It's like it's so funny because he got corrupted so by like you said by his alternate selves that he doesn't know what's good anymore. And I'm curious obviously if like down the road ever he will realize what he like that he's actually been corrupted. um
I will not ruin that for you. So I won't tell you either way. But for
yeah,
me, the big
just
thing,
something that I'm curious about.
I'll say it this way: in the comics, it's answered. I don't know if they're going to answer it in the show. I'll
Yeah.
say it that way. Um, and I don't want to say it only because I don't want to ruin things.
Mhm.
Um, and again, it's not because, to be honest with you, I don't even know if it's going to happen. Obviously, like
Anything can I mean they can change things. I mean
I mean, this is not what I was expecting with the Invincible War. So I mean, and
Invincible War Part 1. See what happens when Part 2 shows up.
if there's a part two, I mean that's the other
Yep.
thing too. But anyway, so my point I'm making is this is a lot of that. Um, and yeah, so Langstrom's there, and we have that going on. So next episode is gonna be it's there. The weird thing though is it's rated 16 plus instead of the Invincible War was 18 plus. So
Interesting.
I don't know if you've noticed. So I pay attention to the ratings now,
I
and
haven't. The
the bloodier the episode, the
higher the
higher,
rating.
which
Yeah.
makes sense,
Yeah.
obviously. But like, so it's funny because it's like the Invincible War, and it's like, oh, it's because everyone died. But I'm like, well, people die all the time, but it's the brutality of it. So death by itself. So like, I have a feeling we're gonna see a big fight. Obviously, there should be no shock there. I don't think it can be as bloody. And hear me out when I say this, because of the amount of people that are going to be
I
involved.
was going to say because technically this one should probably just be Invincible and Conquest for the ideally.
No, yeah,
So,
but that's my point I'm making. So it's like one on one. So
yeah.
it can't be as bloody as the Invincible War. So it's like I
Yeah.
get it. It's just weird to think about that because in my mind it should be rated the same. But I get it.
Yeah.
It makes sense when I think about it further. But it's like initially I'm like, no, 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 no. The season finale needs to be incredibly.
This is going to be ruined now. It's not mature enough. Oh no.
Yeah, and then we're gonna be seeing Conquest just smack Mark around like he's a rag doll. Um,
I can't wait. I cannot wait.
but yeah,
It,
it's it is
this
going to
season has
be
done such a good job.
it's
Like
so good.
each episode has actually gotten better. Even the episodes that I thought were going to be bad turned out to be great. Uh,
I mean,
it,
that was the same thing with Harley Quinn, where the musical episode was one of the best episodes of all, and I thought for sure that was going to be the worst one of them all.
yep. I mean, it was good because of the shock factor too. So I mean,
But
that
it
holds a
also was
special
like,
place.
yeah, it also was the episode where we hated Brainiac, and then turns out we were wrong. But yeah,
Like we feel bad for Brainiac. We hate Brainiac. No, we feel bad for him.
it's
It's
like, oh,
like,
remember you were mad about him last week? Well, guess what? This week you feel bad for him again. You're like, what the heck is going on? But anyway, very much excited for it. Very much excited to see what's going to be happening next. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to end specifically, so
yeah,
I'm very curious. But as all joking aside, even if it ends on a cliffhanger, I'm actually not going to be mad. Um,
yeah, we'll see.
I will cry about it, but I don't think I'll be mad because this season has been incredible.
Yeah, it has.
But let's move on to Daredevil Born Again.
So before we do that, I kind of just remembered also. Um, do you want to ask me any questions about Iron Fist season 2?
Oh, all right. So no,
Yes.
let's do that. Well, no. That's I'm so glad you said that because I completely forgot. So
I know. When we were going through Invincible, after I was like, wait, I feel like there was something else that we
there
were
is.
supposed to talk about too.
We're gonna quickly talk about Iron Fist season 2. So I'll say this: it wasn't as bad as I remember.
Yep.
It still
I,
wasn't good.
I know I said this. I actually did like it.
You liked it better than the first season, which is nothing wrong with that. I
Yeah.
have to agree with you. Um, there were things I didn't like. I actually hated the villain more. So all the stuff that I remember hating about Danny,
Hmm.
which I still don't like him for, to be honest with you, but we saw less of it in season 2, obviously. But I didn't like what's his name? Not Duran.
Which one you're talking about?
Davos.
The
Davos.
Oh yeah, okay.
So Davos for me just right, and to be fair, it's just because his worldview was so astute.
I mean, his he wasn't evil. Like in his eyes, he wasn't evil. He was jealous, which
But
we
at the same time, it's like one of those weird things where it's like everything he hated Danny for was what he was doing.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this guy does not get it. And he
He
was more emotional than Danny, and that's saying something right there.
but like I said, he was blinded by jealousy. So he wanted the Iron Fist. He thought Danny stole it from him. So the fact that now because now that Kung Lung is gone, instead of protecting Kung Lung, he's going to protect New York. And New York, obviously, is not a monk paradise and doesn't have strict rules and whatever. So he's just going to go around killing everybody that is a rule breaker because in Kung Lung, punishment is, I guess, good. Like,
No,
but
it teaches you the right way. Um,
I mean, like I said, he got corrupted by his jealousy and he lost his sight. I get like he wasn't a great villain, but I understood it. And
no, I do, but I'm just saying, I wasn't a fan of him anyway because he was just very hypocritical and all that stuff.
now,
Um,
like I obviously, like you said, I didn't see any of the crybaby Danny. I thought he was a very like he played the emotional. Like
no,
I thought he did
so
a good Iron Fist at this
so
point, like he should
I
have
will
been.
I will say this: what I remember was the scene with him in the under the subway punching all the stuff. Remember, it
Yeah.
was a very short scene.
Yep.
I remember it being longer and being more emotional, meaning like it was over several episodes, and it
Yep.
clearly was not. So that was one of my things where it was like because we went from Danny being this like monk in Luke Cage, like
Yep.
helping him out, to then being again. I remembered it differently than what had actually happened, but I
Yep.
remember him being a whiny crybaby for just punching out all the stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, but like yes, obviously that did happen, and I'm not going to say it's not. I
No,
liked I
it
liked
wasn't.
how it I
It
liked how it
progressed pretty
played
quick,
out.
but
Yeah.
it worked. It played out where he went back. He went to be who he's supposed to be.
Yeah,
Um,
he went to who he was supposed to be, and I think what made it even better is the fact that he acknowledged the fact that he wasn't emotionally there, so he shouldn't be Iron Fist.
well, I think the other thing too was he wanted it so bad he shouldn't have it.
That's what I mean. Like
Yeah,
because he wanted the power, and that wasn't the right reasons to be the Iron Fist.
correct.
Um. So
Absolutely, I agree with you.
um. I like I said, I thought you
I did too.
over negative. I don't even know how to say it, but overplayed how bad it was going to be, and so because my expectations were so low, I really enjoyed it.
No, it was.
So
I will say it was definitely better than I remember, which is not a bad thing whatsoever.
um,
I
I
will
I
say I also loved Misty Knight being in it because that was a big thing.
yep
We talked about Claire and we talked about Luke, who were all mentioned at the very least,
yep
which I did like. We also got Typhoid Mary, um, which was her name was just Mary Walker in this, um, and she is a scary individual. And fun fact, she actually did not have her stereotypical weapon on her, which I thought was interesting. Um, which doesn't really ruin anything, because you could add her in because she technically, to be fair, she wasn't Typhoid Mary, she was just Mary Walker.
yep.
Um, but so she normally has this katana, just rips people apart. So in
Oh
this, she has the Bowie knives, I believe.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think it was
Like
Bowie.
actually,
I don't think it was
they
Bowie knives, but
but they,
some.
they they weren't swords really, but they also weren't
Yeah,
knives. They were in this weird, they were in this weird length thing, right?
yep. I
So
mean, they
she,
also technically they also teased the third personality that
yes,
could have been whoever it is that you're saying.
I mean, yeah, no, absolutely. And so the idea is, Walker is the real one, Mary is the scared one, and then Typhoid Mary is the one who, even though you think Walker is the killer, Typhoid Mary is much worse.
Just like Moon Knight.
Yes, I mean she's Moon Knight before Moon Knight.
Yep.
What else? What else? What else? No, it was good. I liked it. I'm trying to think of anything else. Man, the amount of people he killed was just awful. Especially like I didn't like him killing everyone. Um,
I was
the amount of
actually
kids that died too.
yeah yeah. I was shocked that he killed the restaurant owner.
Now it was
I
all
saw
it was
I
all like
saw
with
it coming.
envy.
Yeah, I saw it coming, but I was still shocked. The kid getting killed at the end, the fact that the kid gang sided with him and then killed some of their own, like that one took me for a loop. Um, but I actually did like the story with what's his friend's name, uh Harold's son,
Oh,
the
Ward.
Ward. I did like that, and I liked the emotional how he was trying to grow. He was trying to grow past his dad, and how he had so much to deal with, and
Hmm.
how he was handling that, and how he was trying to move on. I actually really did enjoy that because they took a different spin with this season. It wasn't
No, they
just
did.
like just constant beating on whatever the hands, because obviously that's moved on. It was more inner fighting with this season because it was
Yes.
um Ward and his sister Danny and Davos, like just, and obviously then what's her name, Danny's girlfriend, uh, how she was growing up to accept responsibility even though she didn't want it. Which I mean, even going like continuing off of that, uh, obviously you had given the hint like, oh, there could be more than one Iron Fist, and I mean, at the very end, which is the one thing that I didn't like, was the Danny them teasing Danny got the Iron Hand back and he could use it to Iron Fist. Yep, and he was able to use the chi to go through bullets. I just, aside from the
So,
CGI look of that, I just didn't like that.
so I will say this, which hopefully makes you feel slightly better. He does not have the Iron Fist, and the thought process is he's now balanced himself enough that he can use his chi.
Oh, okay.
So his chi, so the chi is still his chi. Like if you notice, like the color is supposed to be the same,
Yep.
so it's like so he just uses it in a different way now. Which again, I get. Don't get me wrong. I understand your thought process there. I get it. Um, I mean, I'm also not a huge fan of Colleen Wig using the chi for her sword, because she actually has the Iron Fist.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like a little wonky with that, but whatever. But I also love the fact that she's working with Misty Knight, which is also cool too, because those two work together in the comics as well.
Oh.
Um, Knight and Wing. Um,
Wow. um,
um, but no, they
uh,
actually do work together in the comics.
I
Um,
didn't. I'd say like I didn't mind the chi with the sword, ma-
well,
mainly because in
because
my head I was
she
like,
was the Iron
it's.
Fist, so it's okay.
I was just like in my head I was like, okay, it's channeling through her, and whatever she comes in contact with
That's fair. I
gets
get
that
it.
energy. That was what my mindset went through. It bothered me with Danny because one, he wasn't supposed to have the Iron Fist, and how you described it makes sense.
Hmm.
But just in general, like how it looked, the CGI looked terrible.
No, I will
So
agree.
it
I will
like
agree
it
with that.
really took me out of it too.
And I
Um,
get that. It's just
and I know something we talked about a little bit too that you said that you didn't really like as well was the Iron Fist, the color that they had. I mean, for I know I had said it that it made sense for me with Colleen being white is that she's the most at peace in terms of like most neutral, whereas Danny had his lust for power and envy and whatever, and Davos had rage and jealousy, so it was like corrupting their chi.
so weird as it sounds. Technically, Danny had the best chi because he had the color of the Iron Fist specifically. So that's actually the. I don't want to say it's the purest one because that's not the right word I want to say, but it's the color that got passed down from every trial.
Okay.
Okay, you have the red because of his rage, right?
Yep.
That's the thought process there, and then she's got the white because she's not. And this is gonna sound weird too, because obviously her family was once part of
Uh, Iron
the
Fist.
Iron
Yep.
Fist. Um, but the idea too is how she got it. She actually got it from the red and turned it white. So like she got it no longer corrupted.
Oh, so she saved she saved it.
Yeah. I mean that's
Okay.
what I take from the colors. That doesn't mean it's right, but that's what I'm taking it from. But overall, I mean, we're gonna be watching season 3 of Daredevil this week, or the for next week, I should say. So you're gonna know more about what's going on and everything else. But I mean, for the most part, I mean that's pretty much it for. Oh, Joy, I felt bad for, but also not at the same time because she got thrown out the throne.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, she was pissing me off, but at the same time, like you
it
said, I felt
worked.
bad for her, and it felt worked for her character.
Yeah.
It made sense.
No, I agree.
But from an audience standpoint, it's like, God, get it in your thick skull.
No, but she also knew she was the only one that could get close enough to get the bowl and everything else because nobody else could without him knowing something was wonky.
Yeah.
So at the very least, she knew her part and was going to do that. But anyway, let's move on to Daredevil season 4, if you want to call it that. But it's Daredevil Born Again. So the first 15 minutes was by far the worst of the show ever. Um,
as soon as it started, I sat there going, Scott is going to be so mad at me because I was right. And I was just sitting here going, no, 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 no. And as soon as that first 15 minutes passed and I texted you and you ignored me, I was just like, this guy, he's better not wait to watch this because I'm just going to get more pissed off. And then
so I
you waited
watched
until
it.
the next day.
Oh, did I wait till the next day?
You waited till the next day.
Oh yeah, no, because I was almost done with Iron Fist. That's why. Um, so anyway, you got to see. So technically, he's not Bullseye.
Oh,
No, when I say it that way, he has not donned the mantle of Bullseye.
oh,
So
okay.
he
He is
is
Bullseye, but
Bullseye.
he's not Bullseye.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Bullseye. I'm gonna call him Bullseye.
Poindexter. Um,
Didn't they give him like three names in this episode?
no, that's his full name.
No, I thought no, but I thought they had called him by different names throughout the episode.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Um. So anyway, so his last name's Poindexter, which is he is Bullseye.
Yep.
Um. Seeing him throwing the knives though was incredible.
Oh, hey,
So this was
it was
this
fitting.
was no, it was very fitting. I think the part that threw me off the most though was obviously Feige gets shot by Bullseye, and then Daredevil goes after him. They begin their fight and everything else. I think what threw me off the most was when we get to the top of the building, and then we hear that Feige's heart stops, and then he just pushes him off the building, and then he lives.
Yeah.
So I will say this because this doesn't, it shouldn't ruin anything. In the comics, he has a vibranium skeleton.
Oh, Bullseye does.
Well, because of all the damage that was done to his body, some of it. So not necessarily from that, but in general, he had surgery
Just
and
everything that he's gone through. Yeah.
yeah. So he had surgery and not all of his bones, but some of his bones were either encased or replaced with
Oh, okay. See
adamantium.
now
So
when I'm
so I'll say
seeing
it this
this, it's
way.
just like a
So
stroke of life that he
so
survived.
technically in the comics it was adamantium. Sorry, but I don't
Either
know if
way.
I don't know whether it's going to be because technically adamantium exists now.
Yep.
So it could be, but I think it's vibranium. But we'll have to wait and see to know for sure. But anyway, so he's alive, and Matt Murdock had to, you know, testify. And then apparently him and Paige haven't talked at all since the death of Foggy, which is
It's
makes
been a
sense.
year. It's been a year.
It's also been a year, which threw me off. 15 minutes and then a year later.
Yeah. Um.
So I will say this: the actors talked about um, the scene. So Foggy, the actor, had been going around the press tour and everything else, and then the episodes aired, and people were like, can we get a hug?" And he's like, "Yeah, you guys suck." So anyway, they were talking how they needed to find a reason for him to give up the mantle of Daredevil, and somebody had to go, and there was
Yep.
only one person that they felt it could happen, and it would have gone the way that it did. So they're right. I get it. I'm just not happy about it. We also got to see White Tiger. We see him a few times, but only once in the costume, and it's in the background in like a news report.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was on videotape. It wasn't like an actual scene.
Correct. Well,
Um.
so then we find out he's stopping up what he thinks is a brawl, which, to be fair, so did I.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, the these two guys attack him. One of them tries to hit him. He dodges out of the way. The guy gets hit by a subway train or subway.
That was like whoa.
And then all of a sudden, he's like, "We're the NYPD. Put your hands up!" And I'm like, "You guys waited way too long to say that."
Absolutely. Hey, they're corrupt for a reason.
No, I know. So we have that going on. Then we have his partially his trial. Um, and Matt loses the first wave of battles in the sense of like trying to get him out of jail and everything else for not an appeal, but for bail, and it was denied. And then, but he did win the fact of him not being allowed to, they not allowed to bring up his vigilantiness
Yep.
because it would be unfair because that's not what he was wearing or
It
doing
was
for
not.
the.
It had nothing to do with the trial.
Well, it had nothing to do with the incident, but that was the point Mark was
Yeah.
making. Like, Matt, I mean, Matt was making it clear, like, we are here for the trial of this particular incident, not for any incidents that he's been a part of thus far.
Hmm.
And this will only corrupt the what do I want to say?
The
The
jury.
yes.
Um. I want before we get too far ahead with changing everything. What did you think of the cops having the Punisher symbol tattooed on them?
So that's going to play a bigger role later.
Yep.
I'm assuming. So
I would
going
assume so as well.
again, we I this is a brand new show.
Yep.
There is very little from seasons 1, 2, and 3 that have played a part in this show so far. The only thing that it has done was for you. We've already met the guy who becomes Bullseye. So, other than that, everything else is brand new. So any character you don't recognize other than Bullseye, guess what? I've never met them either.
Okay.
And so they're because it's also many years later, so they're making it a fresh start without being a full fresh start, which I
Yep.
like.
Yep.
Um, and the idea is the idea of why they're wearing the tattoo is because of why most people wear a Punisher anything is they don't understand what he's doing, and so
Yep.
they think their brand of justice is enough. And again, Punisher isn't always right either. I'm not going to justify that either, but he has a code, and other people try to mimic him, and he never agrees with them.
Yep.
He's never agreed with anybody who's tried to do what he does.
I just love I love that they're going right off the bat, right off the rip with that, like the corrupt cops taking justice into their own hands and doing whatever they feel like doing, and like obviously the exact opposite of what Punisher actually stands for in terms of like he's taking the law into his own hands, but he's going after the ones that deserve to be punished, whereas them it's just like whatever they feel like doing.
Well,
And
and again, it's one of those things where it's like, in the eyes of the law, it's the same thing. In the eyes of
yeah,
the law, it's the same thing.
it is.
However, from the audience perspective, Frank has a code, and not everyone. eh, eh, I'll say it this way: everyone takes that code differently.
Oh yeah.
Is the best way to phrase that. Um, but yeah, I love seeing everyone. So yeah, so we had the trial and it works. We don't get to see much of it, but we have to talk about the fight scene where Matt is listening to the partner of the guy who died, and they find out they're gonna go kill the only witness that he has. So he calls his cop friend who found out he was also
Oh,
Daredevil,
oh yeah. Yeah.
and he's like, "Hey, I need you to grab this guy, and I'll deal with the cops." And he gets his butt kicked by the cops originally, until they pull out the gun. He's like, "Guys, you really don't want to do this right now." And then, honestly, I thought he killed the second cop.
I thought he killed them both.
No, but I mean, so
I'm
I'll
a
say this: the first one, I can at least say I wasn't confident. The second one, I thought I heard a neck break.
I mean, I'm going off of the thing that I think he did do it. So like I'm the way I'm taking this season so far is that in season 1 how I'm taking how they're doing this show as like you said it's going to be a reboot. But at the same time not really. Like you said fresh start. Um season 1, 2 and 3, I haven't seen 3, but obviously this week I will for so this will be kind of confirmation. It's him battling him and Daredevil battling of like what line can we cross? Should we cross that line? And like obviously he has his faith, and how will that play a role in it and all that, like will he be able to go to heaven if he does all these bad things for the right reasons? And now come into season 4, now that he's lost Foggy was the one that was, again, they're still taking it with that he's Daredevil, so he's an addict. When he got that call, he's like, "Why didn't you tell me? I wasn't looking for you to have an excuse to do what you want to do." So he's had his friends to keep him in check. I don't want to cross that line because they're, I, I still have something to come home to. And now that when Foggy died, he threw that out the window, and he was ready to kill Bullseye. Unfortunately, fortunately, he didn't kill Bullseye, so he didn't cross that line.
Yeah.
Now this he's
Although
been
to be
able.
fair, we thought he did.
We
Not
thought he
that
did.
I thought for sure that was the line he crossed because I thought
Oh
he did.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, like he tossed him over the building with the intention to kill him. Like at that point, he didn't care. He just lost his best friend. You know, in his mind, it's like it's over. So now that he lost Foggy and he almost crossed that line, he didn't want to be Daredevil anymore because now he can't balance that. Like you said, in seasons 1, 2, and 3, he was balancing on that line of can I will I be able to resist crossing the line?
I
Now
agree.
we've had a year of him not being Daredevil. He's been building up all this frustration. The cops attacked him. At that point, his mindset of holding back is gone. So he finally crossed that line. To me, he just killed those two cops because they pushed him too far, and he no longer has any restraints. He doesn't have his friends. He has not been Daredevil for a year because he hung up the mantle.
Yes.
And I love the fact that we were going around seeing New Yorkers saying, "We need Daredevil. We miss Daredevil. The streets haven't been the same." even though we've had other vigilantes, they mentioned Spider-Man, they mentioned Hawkeye and Bishop and Spider-Man.
No, it's okay. You could say Hawkeye twice and Spider-Man twice. That's fine.
I only said Hawkeye once. I did not remember if I said Spider-Man twice. That one I wasn't positive about.
You definitely did Spider-Man. I'm saying the twice on Hawkeye because it was Hawkeye and then you said Bishop.
I no, I
That
know.
one I will. That one I will at least give you because they are two different people, but they are both Hawkeye.
um, but they've specifically mentioned, we miss Daredevil, and
And they've also made comments about how White Tiger is nothing like Daredevil.
yeah, I mean, I mean, even still, all the other heroes that I just said is like it's not the same. So it's it's very interesting to see what the direction the show is taking in terms of he crossed that line. What's next for him? How is he going to get back so that way he
Well,
doesn't cross
that's
it
the other
again?
thing too, is because we thought he crossed the line in the first episode where he kills Bullseye, and then in the second episode it ends with what I'm assuming him killing at least one cop,
Yep,
at least.
I think both.
No, here's the thing. I'm not saying you're wrong whatsoever. I'm stating like. In my mind, the first one still has a chance of being alive.
Yep.
In my mind, the second one is dead.
Oh yeah.
Or at the very least, a quadriplegic. Now,
But I really like that because it was now in episode 1 it was Daredevil tried to kill Bullseye and failed. Now in episode 2, Matt Murdock killed one, potentially two cops. So it's like
technically, he
completely
hasn't
roles
officially killed
reversed.
any of them. Technically, meaning like we don't know that for a fact yet.
We
We're
don't have
assuming
confirmation. Yes, we're
because
assuming. I'm
well,
assuming.
I'm saying it that way because I also assumed he killed Bullseye. So meaning
Well,
like
at the very end of the before the episode ended, we saw
no, we
him
knew,
take a
we knew.
breath.
But what I'm saying is, but you get my point though. Like I thought he was
Yeah.
dead.
Yep.
So anyway, actually, I didn't know until we saw his trial that he was alive.
Well, after Foggy, after before the cutaway, Bullseye took a breath. He woke up and
Oh, was that part of the subtitles?
no, I literally watched him open his eyes and go.
Oh, clearly I was.
Like that's why I knew he wasn't dead.
Anyway, so for me, I just didn't know he was dead. I thought he was dead until his trial, which literally wasn't that far off anyway. It was literally the next scene. So
No,
it
it was
wasn't
the
like
next scene.
so it didn't really change it. Like it wasn't like I waited an hour. Like it was like 5 minutes. But anyway, so let's talk about Wilson Fisk and Vanessa.
They're going through
That
some troubles.
that was not what I was expecting. Vanessa took over the crime syndicate. She's been making it flourish since he was been absent, and
Yep.
she's just not happy that he all of a sudden jumps back in like nothing happens.
She found they didn't divorce, but she had moved on and gotten with someone else. Was hinted, which I'm curious like if Kingpin's ever going to do anything about that.
If he hasn't already,
Well, he said he didn't.
he's in therapy. He's not going to say it.
I mean, I kind of everyone knows Kingpin. If he tries to be as honest as he can with Vanessa. That's the one person that he tries not to lie
No,
with.
that's you know what? That's fair. So, but they were speaking in code in the therapist office though.
True.
So, I mean, you get my point I'm making. So I'm not. He wasn't lying to her, but he wasn't. We weren't hearing what they were all like. We knew what was
Well,
happening.
he didn't say it wasn't in therapy that he said that found out about talking about the other guy. It was they
Oh, it's
were
when they met up. They met up. It
on
was
the
when
on the roof.
you're right.
Yeah. So it was one on one. So I know for a fact that he definitely didn't actually do it.
No, then you're right. So anyway, he was running for mayor. He won the mayorship, and then his people were kind of like, "Hey, you need your wife here," and your wife's kind of like, "I don't really care."
Yeah.
Um, and so they go to therapy, and she kind of feels like she's there because she has to, and not because she wants to. And to be fair, that is a very honest thing, and I get that. And in her mind, she's like, "He left, then he's not really been back. He's
Yeah.
back, but he's not back." And it's like, and so he did talk about him getting shot in the face and everything else, which I did like. um, which was interesting. Um, but yeah, it was just an odd thing to now see him be mayor, and also he lost a lot of weight. Can
Yeah,
we
he
talk
did.
about that for a minute?
Yep.
Um, and so he's fixing up stuff like crazy for for the city of New York, like you would not believe. Um, and
Giant potholes in the middle of the highway.
that he like is like, I'm signing it right now, just do it.
Yep.
Um, which is obviously going to backfire at some point. I know that.
Of course.
But
Um,
anyway, so we have all that going on, and then it's the therapy with his wife, which it happens to be the therapist that they're using is Matt Murdock's new girlfriend,
yep.
um, which is a whole
Do
nother.
do you think Kingpin knows that, or do you think it's just a coincidence? You think
I
it's
think it's
just
a
a coincidence?
coincidence
Okay.
because she's a well-known and good at her job, is why he picked her. Had nothing to do with anything else, because he only wants the best to make sure that his marriage can be resolved.
That's fair.
So we have that going on, and it's cool and all that stuff. And Vanessa, I don't know. There's something about Vanessa in this season where she feels like like a, a like a well, basically a bad bitch, and
Yeah.
and it's working. I'm not gonna lie.
I
So
mean, she says it. She took over the business.
and
She
it's been
thrived.
thriving.
She had to. She basically had to become Kingpin.
Yes.
Like her being the side person wasn't going to work in that business.
No, you
So
can't. You have to be in charge, or you're not. That's it.
yep. If you were not in charge, you were going to get taken advantage of, and she learned that quickly. I mean, I from the season one, I assumed she had seen that. I assumed something else happened. I'll find out. Something had to happen in season three that maybe she came around again that could build up to it. Um, I'm not looking for your answer. I'm giving some thoughts because I'm seeing this out of order technically.
I will tell you that Vanessa doesn't die in season 3.
You sure this isn't a clone or a zombie coming back to life? Like,
Well, you're gonna learn some things in my character spotlight that's gonna be shocking. Um. So anyway, no. So we have all that going on. And then that's pretty much.
Matt's has a new firm, new law firm.
Yep.
Um, uh, I like how he's grown and moved on, and at the
All right.
same time,
Can we talk about how? What did you think the therapist was there for?
well, at first the way that they had talked about it was supposed to be a new client.
No, no. I thought it was her tricking him into getting therapy for Foggy being dead.
Oh,
Right.
oh, yes,
That's
yes,
what I
yes,
thought.
yes. Actually, yes, I
And
agree.
then it turned
Yes.
out to be. And then she's like, "Oh no, I thought you guys would click." And I'm like, "That was an actual date." I'm like, I'm thinking they're trying to get him to.
Well, no, when obviously like then they started talking, and as soon as they started talking, I was like, oh, that his partner's a schemer. That's right.
Which was.
I Yeah, no, I agree with you. As soon as the conversation started and she said that she was a therapist, I was like, oh, it's therapy for, because they had talked about it before. It's like, oh, I think you need therapy to help get over this. Um, and then obviously, Matt being Matt. Um, but I liked the conversation, which we had already seen in the trailer. They had shown it in the trailer. The conversation with Matt and Kingpin, both of them putting their cards on the table. Kingpin basically saying he's a new person. Um,
Hmm.
I liked Kingpin still being Kingpin as soon as he was in the mayor's office when the chief of police tried to quit on him, and he basically threatened threatened his family. No, not basically. He did threaten his family,
That one, yeah, that threw me off too. But I very much enjoyed it. It made sense.
and I loved the kid reporter showing up, who is Ben Urich's niece, I believe.
Yes.
Um,
So no, so the yes, I'm under the impression that's who she's related to. I mean, that's how they're related.
yep.
Because at first I thought it was daughter, and then they were like, "Yeah, no, that's my uncle," and I was like, "Okay."
yep. And I love that she I took it. I might have just been misreading it, but I took it that she was like idolizing Kingpin when like, and it's ironic that she idolizes the guy that like ruined her, not ruined her family, I guess, kind of.
Well, she doesn't know that though.
I know, but that's why I'm saying it's ironic. Um,
Well, I mean, he's also the guy that killed him.
um, but overall, these two episodes were absolutely fantastic. I was super into every single moment of it. I was on the edge of my seat, just like with from start to finish.
Hmm.
Um, I have to say, I definitely think the tone is gorier, but at the same time, it's scaled back in terms of I don't remember it being this gory in season 1 and 2.
Nope, you're right. And
Um,
I
but
think
but I feel like the
wait.
characters are still like nervous to play these roles again because it's been so long. I feel like they're not like some of the dialogue just doesn't feel
Like it did
like
before.
yeah, like doesn't feel whole. Um,
Well, I also think too, it's like they're not the same people. They really aren't.
yeah,
And so like there is a gap in everything, so it sort of all makes sense.
it makes sense with Kingpin because like he's a
But
changed man.
well, it also should make sense with Matt and Karen because they dealt with the biggest loss that they've ever had to deal with.
Yep.
Um,
Speaking of Karen, I have to say this real quick. I was so I'm playing God of War Ragnarok, and I'm scrolling through Twitter, and people are talking about how, like, oh, if I was Matt Murdock and I fumbled Karen this bad, I don't know how I'd move on or whatever. And someone commented, and it's like, if I was Matt Murdock, I would feel like I would be the same person that Kratos was in God of War Ragnarok. It's like, what's going on? Apparently, Karen voices Kratos' wife in God of War Ragnarok, and technically that would be a spoiler because I didn't know that she was making an appearance in the game. So just because of Daredevil, I got a spoiler for the actual game, and it actually I was pissed, but it's kind of funny.
on a side note, aren't they making um, God of War Egypt?
I have no idea. I've
Well, you know what? Sit
I've
down and shut up then.
I
If you
haven't
don't have
heard
answers,
anything about
if
that.
you don't have answers, then sit down and shut up.
You haven't even played the games.
I have watched the death battles, and that's enough.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so anyway, so yeah, so we're gonna, so yeah, that I mean, like I said, these episodes were great. I cannot wait for the next episode. Um, so next week, so
I'm very curious how Matt is going to handle what's going to transpire with Matt and
the next episode has to start where this one ended. Has to. There's no way around it. Um,
at least answering it in some way. Like it
yes, no,
might
that I agree
not
with. That I agree with.
like not picking up in the same room, but like
No, but at least has to answer the question within the first 5 minutes of the episode.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, so next week we're going to be talking about um, Daredevil season 3, the latest episode of Daredevil, the latest episode of Harley Quinn, and the season finale of Invincible. Ending with a character spotlight for Mike, but we are not done yet because I have to do my character spotlight. And my character spotlight is none other than Vanessa Fisk of Earth 616.
Oh
Oh, did you know already?
no, I no, I knew it was obviously Daredevil related. I just didn't know who you were gonna pick.
So, Vanessa first met Fisk at the age of 15 years old when she was brought to him by his band of thieves to be used as a slave on the black market. Though she was a lost, although she was lost and afraid, Fisk saw her natural sense of grace and depth of spirit that he longed for in a partner, and the two eventually formed a connection. Within a short time, the two married as a loving couple. She loved the Kingpin deeply, but disagreed with his criminal ways. Together, they had a son and named him Richard. And at some point during her pregnancy, she took a sewing needle and pressed it up against her belly, in fear of bringing her baby into a world of violence and crime. When their son was older, they sent him away to Switzerland for his education. Richard came back at one point, wanting to take over his father's empire as the schemer, and face both his mother and his father. The Kingpin was quite possessive of his wife. However, she was lost in the sewers of New York and believed to be dead for some time. Daredevil rescued her from the king of the sewers and returned her to her husband for a price. The price was that Kingpin had to remove his corrupt mayoral candidate Ronald Sherrill, I think is how you pronounce the name, from the ballot. Fisk readily agreed, especially for his wife. Perhaps as a result of this and other perceived threats, Kingpin began hiring actresses to impersonate Vanessa so that she would not fall victim to kidnapping or future exploitation from his adversaries. One particular impersonator happened to be Heidi Devoto, died after she was kidnapped by one of his enemies. Vanessa once split up with Wilson Fisk, but she returned to New York when she found out her son had tried to kill her husband. Richard had teamed up with an old friend of his, Sammy Slike, and others in order to assassinate his father, Wilson. Furious, she started cleaning up the underworld, starting with the murder of a small time hood named um, Fall Zone. Then eventually she confronted her son, Richard, who, after an exchange of words, she promptly killed herself. After she took her husband away to recuperate, um, Vanessa knew Wilson would not forgive her for killing Richard. However, she also parted with him before he recovered to avoid his wrath.
Damn.
Vanessa eventually contracted a terminal illness and decided to resolve all of her outstanding debts. From afar, Vanessa was the ringleader of the operation relating to Murdoch's and her husband's arrest by the FBI, as well as faking Foggy Nelson's murder and hiring Iron Fist to pose as Daredevil in Hell's Kitchen, and using Tombstone and Lily Luca to lead Murdoch on a journey throughout Europe. Um, she faked Foggy Nelson's murder.
I was gonna. I forgot to say it. They announced that Karen and Foggy are going to appear in season 2. So obviously that leads to a lot of questions. Is it going to be a flashback, or is it going to be him faking his death like he does in the comics?
So we're going to continue on where she did this out of revenge, blaming both Daredevil and Wilson for her current situation. She confronted Daredevil briefly before she finally passed with details of her efforts. Sometime after her death, Murdoch would honor her last wish and get the charges against Kingpin dropped on the condition that Wilson give up his U.S. citizenship. Years later, her body was recovered by the Hand, and she was brought back to life with the purpose of killing her husband in order to test if he was still worthy leader of the Hand. Yes, Wilson was the leader of the Hand at one point. You're welcome.
I think I knew that.
I think we've talked about it before. We definitely haven't talked about this part though. The two battled, but Wilson didn't want to kill his wife and tried to reason with her, asking her if there was any trace of her once old self, to show it to him so that he could see that it was that she was not harmed by anyone. And when it seemed that there was um, no hope, the Kingpin broke her back in order to kill her. However, much to his horror, he discovered too late that she was aiming for an attacker behind him to save his life.
Ooh.
Vanessa died her second death in the arms of her devastated husband, who buried himself. Sorry, no, buried himself deeper into crime.
Oh.
The Jackal later revived Vanessa again, granted as a clone, in an attempt to convince Fisk Enterprises to fund New U Technologies. However, Wilson snapped Vanessa's neck, denouncing her as a worthless clone and claiming that whatever Jackal did tainted his last memories of her.
Well, damn.
So Vanessa's abilities: she's generally unique, quite nonviolent, but she can be cold, calculating, and vengeful when she needs to be, and she's a competent use of firearms. One of her attributes, and this is only when she was a clone, was she was pill dependent. So she had to actually take these pills to make sure that her cells didn't disintegrate.
It's not
But
surprising.
obviously, she doesn't have to do that when she's herself. Her handgun of choice, her weapon of choice is a handgun that's a 22 caliber. And one of the other things too is she was first introduced in a cameo in 1968 in The Amazing Spider-Man number 70, and then she was fully introduced in Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man number 83 in 1970. However, her final death was in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, number 19 in 2016, and she's not come back to life since.
Oh wow.
So I wanted to bring that up because there are clones, and there are ways that she gets brought back if she does die. And the fact that he might also be using actresses to pretend to be Vanessa during their time of rebuilding their marriage to protect her, but also protect his image.
There's so many different ways that they could choose to go if they want to.
Yep. So that is Vanessa Fisk. And like I said, next week we're going to be talking about the latest episode of Harley Quinn, the season finale of Invincible, the latest episode of Daredevil Born Again, and we're going to be talking about season 3 of Daredevil as well. And ending with a character spotlight from Mike. So from right now, if you've made it this far into the video, please make sure to like and subscribe down below. Other than that, this is going to be Scott and Mike signing out of the Black Eel Podcast. Have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.